Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Woodruff Wolverine Coaches Show. My name is Brad Phillips. We are live here at Tap 3, Main Street, Woodruff, South Carolina. As always, thanks to the crew at Tap 3 for having us here on Tuesday nights. BOGO flatbreads, as always. And our special guest tonight is Woodruff High School Athletic Director, Coach Mike Morris. Coach, thanks for coming in and hanging out with us tonight. Round three, something that we have not been able to experience in quite a while. I think it's been about 6 years since we had football in round three. Definitely exciting. You can kind of feel the excitement in town, and our Woodruff fans are hungry for some good football here in the third round. Coach, I was trying to think the other day, and you've told me this. How many years altogether have you been in education and coaching altogether?
This is year 31. I actually coached 22 years, and this is my 9th year in as the AD, so 31 total.
Right, that's crazy. And Coach, for those folks out there that don't know your whole story, your dad was a longtime coach, kind of growing up as a coach's son, so to speak. Give us an insight of a little bit about growing up as a coach's son. Was that what motivated you to get into the profession altogether, or did you think twice about it at all? Because you're a Citadel guy as well, coming from the Citadel. But give us a little bit of insight on how you kind of got into the coaching profession.
Well, really, my dad was a career coach in the state of Georgia. He did 31 years in Georgia, 21 as a head coach, and really since from the time I could walk, I was at the games. I have a brother who's 10 years older than me, and he actually, I think his junior year was the first I actually remember games. That was 1979. So
wow.
Really, from 79 all the way up till I got in 9th grade, I was a manager for the team. I went to every game, and we had some great runs. Played for a state title in 80, lost. Had some really good teams in the early 80s, mid 80s. But yeah, it was always tough. I could tell you a few stories, but you would have to delete some of the things. Probably one of the funniest ones. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but I was in 8th grade. I was a manager, and for whatever reason, we didn't get any water into the locker room at halftime quick enough, and he had me cornered, and he had this knack for kicking people in the butt. So I actually took a kick in the butt for the lack of water that was in there that night. And it's funny because when he used to go on his tirades at halftime, the assistant coaches would go hide in the shower, actually, at home games. But
Now, remind me what school you guys were at.
Duluth High School. Yeah, my dad, he actually started in South Georgia and coached at his hometown, Jeff Davis County, from 60 to 65. Then he went to North Fulton in Atlanta from 66 to 69, and then he was head coach at Duluth from 70 to 1990. And then actually he retired, moved to Myrtle Beach, and he was an assistant at Saukesty for 9 years.
Right.
Did middle school even a couple of years. Funny story on that, he actually came home one day and his arms were all battered up. I think he was like 63 years old. My mom was like, what did you do? Did you have a wreck? And he's like, no, I had to teach somebody how to tackle today. So he actually was tackling people out there at 63. But he coached 40 years, and he loved every minute. He was a career coach. I never really thought about coaching. I really thought I was going to be an accountant, but things change, and you just feel led to coach. I have a son right now who thinks he's going to be in the business world, but I could see him coaching also.
Right. Coach, you've told me tons of stories about your dad over the years, and I can see a ton of the parallels. Maybe you can speak to this. Ton of the parallels between coaches of that era and Coach Varner and your dad kind of fell in line with some things and philosophies and all that kind of stuff. We also had a coach here about 15 years ago. Coach Drincon was here, and he came out of the state of Florida. Yeah, you're laughing. But Coach Drinkon was one of those old school guys. And you'll have to remind me, but he was a state champion in Florida as well.
He won several state titles. I think he was at South Dade and Homestead. And he was a Michigan transplant, ended up down in Florida. Mm-hmm. Great coach. I can't remember exactly how he got to Greenville. Maybe his daughter lived here, and he just showed up one day and volunteered. Didn't want any pay, and he helped us several years. But he was definitely a throwback, and just a great knowledge of the sport for sure.
Well, I thought about, with BHP coming up this week, I thought about he crossed my mind, and I don't know if you remember him making this statement, but let's see. I think it was 2014 playoffs. We played BHP here at home. We hosted BHP, and it was 63
to 56.
56.
Yeah, neither team could stop either team.
Yeah, in the playoffs, 63 to 56, and we got. For whatever reason, I was in the coach's room with you guys after the game down at the Pack building, and you could just see the stress on Coach Drinkon's face, and he plops down in a chair and he says, "Guys, I've coached for 40 years." He's like, I've never been a part of a game like that in my entire life with two teams that couldn't stop each other and score that many points. He's like, I've never seen that many points on the board before. And he was right. That was one of the craziest playoff memories that I have in recent years. I think I remember that Brian Bailey was quarterback.
He was. He threw for some incredible amount of yards that night.
500 or 600
500
yards.
and something, yeah.
And he hurdled a guy on our sideline, coming down the sideline, just straight hurdled a guy. One of the,
Which I think is illegal, right?
Yeah, well, whether I don't even remember if we got a flag or not, but I remember.
I remember Coach Blackston wanted a flag on it. I don't think they threw one, though.
Yeah. Well, that was that's a core memory playoff game for me anyway. Witnessing that many points and remembering Coach Drinkon, knowing he had been a part of a bunch of state championships and playoff games, and he just said, "Guys, I've never witnessed that many points on the scoreboard before." So that's some good memories. Coach Drinkon's a great dude. It's been a couple of years ago. I think I ran into him at a restaurant, him and his wife maybe over in Simpsonville area. So he definitely was still around. But those old school coaches don't quite exist anymore, but they had a lasting impact. I know in your life for sure. Your dad had an incredible impact on your life and in your coaching career. But Coach, you ended up at the Citadel to go to college, right? Give us a little bit of insight on what it's like to attend the Citadel. Can you sum it up in a short amount of time at all?
It's a very rough place. You don't quite know what you're getting into till you get there. I actually had my 30th class reunion this past Saturday. We had a good turnout, but my company, I think we had maybe 30-something people, and I think about 14 of us actually graduated. And it's kind of funny when they tell you that some of y'all won't be around here tomorrow night, and you kind of look around and wonder why they're not going to be around. Then, it didn't take long to figure out why, some people were not going to be around. But, it was definitely a tough place. Obviously, it's changed with the times like everything else. Times change, but it was a good place to be from. I will say that. There's a lot of Citadel alumni out there. We're lucky. We actually have 3 other Citadel alumni in our school district.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll try to name them.
Steve Ramey, Chip Hitchcock, and Ace Linder.
Gotcha.
are all Citadel grads.
Yeah.
And actually Doug McNary, who I saw coached here for a long time.
Right.
Coach Mack was a grad. He and the connection with that is Clark Simpkins Sr. actually was a Citadel grad through the Veterans Program. And that's kind of how Coach Mack got up here through that connection. Yeah,
talk about a coach. Coach Mack was a beast of a coach in his day himself. I hadn't talked to him in a long time. Good memory for Coach Mack. And when you left Citadel, was your first stop Loris?
Yeah, it was. So the fall of '95, I took a job there, and actually, the Citadel connection. My principal is a Citadel grad, so I got a job there. I worked for a guy named Steve Campbell, who was an All-American at Mars Hill. Great coach, great mentor. We had some really good teams there. Couldn't ever get past the third round.
Probably could. Let me guess. Dylan.
No,
Wildcats.
actually, Dylan was. We were 2A. Dylan was 3A at the time.
That's right, 3A.
For years, Loris was 2A, but there were three teams that they could not beat, and that was Barnwell, Silver Bluff, or Batesburg was Lower State at the time, or Swansea. It seems like those teams they would always run into one of those teams in the third round. My last year there in 2000, we had a great team, and we finished 11-2, and we got to the third round and got beat by Barnwell, who had a very good football team.
Yeah, those are names that the Woodruff Wolverines have run into as well in that era of the '90s. We played for a state championship game against Swansea. We actually, we beat Batesburg in '93 for
and then lost
upper
to Swansea that year. Yeah, actually, Swansea put Loris out in the third round that year. I think beat them 16-7. Swansea won 3 in a row during that little run. They had some really good football teams.
Yeah, and the other team you mentioned, Silver Bluff. We lost to Silver Bluff here at home in 1991.
Yeah, Silver Bluff's had a lot of good football teams through the years too.
Yeah, man, and those were some good years of football through the '90s for sure. And I think I'm saying this right. You coached wrestling.
I did
when you were at Loris, right?
Yeah, I coached wrestling and football there. We were very fortunate. We won a couple state titles in wrestling, '99 and 2000. That's kind of how I got here. We had been doing point scoring in the tournament for the state title up to 2000, and then they went to a team-on-team state title in '01, and just by luck, Woodruff actually hosted the '01 state championship wrestling. I'd never been through the town before. I've seen it on the interstate. Of course, like everybody else, I knew that Tony Rice was from Woodruff, and actually. My roommate at the Citadel for a time, Jason Taylor, was from here.
Yeah.
So that was my only other connection to the town of Woodruff.
Right. I don't even think I knew that.
Yeah.
So Jason,
yeah,
Bobby Dog, how about that? And you, what year did you end up coming to Woodruff?
Would have been we moved here in June of '01. So my first football season was '01.
And that was Roebuck.
Yes. Funny story we've been honoring the old teams. At the games, and when we honored the teams that ended in 1 a few years ago, the '01 team was, let me put it nicely, was not a very good team.
Yeah.
And when I got those guys out there, Cole Harrison was like, I'm interested to see what this paragraph about the '01 team says. And
was that the 1-9?
Yes, we were 1-9. Probably the worst offensive team I've ever been associated with. We scored 75 points.
Right.
In the entire year, and 21 of those were in one game.
Yeah.
So, the offensive production on that team was not good.
But the prognostication was good. A couple of years later, made a pretty deep run in the playoffs.
The 2003 team is one of the best teams, obviously, since this century that, we had a good team, 11-2.
Yep.
Lost to Clinton 7-6, and then it was we played Abbeville in the third round, which was a huge game that night, and we ended up losing, I think, 33-28, but we uncharacteristically turned the ball over a lot that night. We had gone, I think, 12 games. We'd only turned it over once or twice. Actually, Eddie Brooks was our quarterback.
That's right. And
we'd really taken care of the football, but for whatever reason, that game, we turned it over several times, and, of course, Abbeville, everybody knows about Abbeville. You can't turn the ball over against them.
That game. I was just talking to somebody the other day. That game, I think for everyone in the stands, we were driving to score.
Oh, we got down on the 10-yard line at the end of the game.
Yep, and Eddie was trying to throw a pass. He was actually trying to throw the ball away, and the referee called it a fumble, and kind of turned the ball over there at the end. And that's one of those heartbreakers, kind of like the '09 Batesburg game. Actually, Brian Lane mentioned that when I was talking to him a couple weeks ago. That was just one of those heartbreaker playoff games, just like the Abbeville game.
Yeah, that we try to forget about that game a little bit. I know Batesburg's beaten us, knocked us out several times. We just made a few too many mistakes that night, and Batesburg obviously has always been a quality opponent, especially in the playoffs.
We go way back with Batesburg, back to the the 70s, and they actually broke our hearts here in 1979.
I've heard several times on that.
The drive for 5, had an opportunity to win 5 in a row, winning handily in the first half, and ended up losing 42-21 to Batesburg in 1979. I was 2 years old, was not there, but I'm kind of like you.
I guess the only funny story, I met a
stories.
guy at Batesburg one night, and I actually told him I was coaching here. This was been 20 years ago, and he told me that he got thrown in jail here that night after the game because he was celebrating in the parking lot. I don't know if that's true or not, but he swore it was.
I've never heard that one. I've never heard that one at all. Coach, several years ago, I guess it was around 2008, I was thinking about this earlier today, as a matter of fact. I think my first kind of look behind the curtain, so to speak, with the athletic department and how games run and how things are done was around 2007. I think was Freddie Brown's last year, and it's a funny story to me, actually. Freddie Brown was a hype guy. Like he liked the loud music. He liked all the things. Matter of fact, he and Flynn Harrell got together, and he told Coach Harrell that he wanted 2 things at the game, at the home games in 2007. He wanted music to be played over the PA, and he wanted the team to come out to smoke. So Coach Harrell calls me and goes, "Hey man, can you help me figure this out? We need to figure this out." And we ended up purchasing some kind of volcano fog machine things that you hit the button and the team comes out and it sprays this fog stuff everywhere. And we learned real quick that once you do that, it fills up the stadium for at least the first half of the first quarter. But Coach Brown was pumped, and Coach Harrell let me inside behind the curtain a little bit, so to speak, and jumped in the press box to run some music and those kind of things.
I'll tell you a funny story on the fire extinguisher. I'm actually going to get them filled tomorrow.
Well, yeah. Well, that was we got online and started Googling what people were doing, and to preempt your story here, we purchased some CO2 fire extinguishers, right? So you can tell everybody kind of what you have to do.
Yeah, well, we have to go get them filled. We actually go fill them at Pie Barker over in Drayton. The guy's great to fill them up. But a couple funny stories about that. I didn't know that the fire extinguisher kills grass. And, of course, after it was early in the year, the grass was still green. Well, I had a little bit left, and I pointed it down and shot it in the grass. And Coach Jansen let me know, well, that grass is going to be dead on Monday. So I learned a valuable lesson there. The other valuable lesson, the wind was blowing a couple of years ago, and the fog engulfed me, and actually Donald Stubbs ran over me. Luckily, I didn't fall down, but the fire extinguisher killed my knee, so I really thought I hurt my knee pretty bad that night. But it was pretty funny to watch on video. But yeah, so now if the wind's blowing at all, I make sure I back out a little more than you always learn to make adjustments.
Yeah, we can go all the way back to Flynn Harrell. We can blame him for that one because that's where kind of all that stuff started, and we had to figure out a way to make smoke when the kids run out and not linger over the stadium for the rest of the game. So that CO2. What athletic directors didn't know about, little did the athletic directors know who were coming up at Woodruff High School, was that you're on Friday, Thursdays or whenever you're going to go get CO2 extinguishers filled up so the kids can run out through the smoke on Friday nights. And that was one of the things that we figured out, gosh, how long ago is that now? 17 years ago, I guess.
I don't know why I'm not crazy about when we run out during the daylight in it, but, I always love it when it's dark and we're running out to it. But, we've always done it, and I know the kids enjoy it, so that's something that we've always done. Yeah.
And so that's just a little backstory if anybody out there is listening and wondering where all that came from. That's one of the jobs that we added to the plate of athletic director here at Woodruff High School. But everybody loves it. It's a tradition, I guess, that we kind of created over the past 17 years. It seems like it's going to stick. We've been doing it for a while now. But, Coach, I got to kind of see 17 years ago, I guess, kind of what it takes to set up a Friday night football game. And a lot of people have literally no idea. You show up and buy a ticket and you buy concessions, you sit and watch the game. And there are so many moving parts. I think people's minds would be literally blown if they knew. I'm sure you probably have already started yesterday putting the wheels into motion to make sure that the game comes off without a hitch on Friday. There's online ticketing now, which didn't exist before, especially in the playoffs. But I don't know if you can. What are some things at the top of your list that you have to get done, prior to Friday or the day of, a round 3 playoff game like we're hosting on Friday? Can you give us any idea what that looks like?
Well, you're right. There's a lot of moving parts from getting the field, make sure it's cut, getting the field blown, fire extinguishers, the amount of food. If you've been up in the press box,
we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of prep work that goes in to a game for sure. Just the amount of coolers we're doing, to drinks, to the tickets, just everything.
You got sideline covers now.
Everything, to the tarp, to tapping the tarp down, and the tarp maintenance actually puts the tarp out for me, but I have to nail it down. And if it doesn't rain recently like it hadn't, it's a little. That's why I usually don't work out on Friday. Between that and walking up and down the press box 10 times,
you get your steps in.
Yeah, you'll get your exercise in.
Yeah, because you're putting out. If I'm not mistaken, you're physically still putting out all the pylons, you're putting out the goalpost pads.
Yep.
You're probably pulling
moving
chairs
the
and
tables, benches. It's funny because actually I'll thank Jason Curran for this. He showed me how to move tables and benches with the Gator by yourself.
Yeah. You load them all up.
You don't have any help, so you get real creative on how you can move a table across the field by yourself.
The Jason Curran. He actually he's texted me while we're talking here right now. I'm sure there's some tricks of the trade that So we'll wrap up here in a second, but let's briefly talk about what a lot of people don't know.
Okay.
On Friday nights in the press box, there is a spread, and let me tell you, folks, when I say spread, it is. It goes everything from pizza to steak and gravy and mac and cheese and green bean. And sandwiches. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. And I would venture to say, is there 20 to 25 people in the press box, I guess, each week?
That's a good question. You would probably know that more than I do because, I'm superstitious. Once before the game, I go up there after halftime. But, yeah, we do have quite the spread up there because there are a lot of people that we have working that need to eat. And when I started this job, one of the worst things I think imaginable as a coach was after the game to not have anything to eat.
Oh, yeah.
Especially even coming back from road games, but it's home games, we wouldn't have anything. So I do try to order a little more just so we can take it down to the coaches afterwards.
To the coaches' office.
Yeah. So
man.
Let them eat a little bit, but hauling all that food up there is quite the task sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell on Christine. She's not here tonight, but she came up last Friday, and she said, "Well, Mike sent me up here to make sure everything was good." And she's like, "I don't know why Mike sent me up here because he has everything just in place and where it needs to be and all the things." But she did come up and double check your work.
I'm sure, and she probably came up there to eat a little bit too.
She did. She made a plate. She made herself a plate after she came up.
But we normally rotate from Midway to Chick-fil-A to Zaxby's to always have pizza and desserts and lemonade, tea, a lot of stuff up there. But other than that too. You have to feed the officials, so I always I got to set up the officials' food. Also with that, we've been doing Jersey Mike's. They've been great for us the last couple of years to do that, and then our workers. We have a ton of workers at work, so we've been getting Chick-fil-A boxes for them also.
Yes, sir. It's so, for anybody out there listening, you would really have to wrap your mind around all the things that have to take place prior to, prior to 6 p.m. when the gates open.
Oh,
you have to.
that's
You'd
that's
imagine.
one thing. Somebody asked me about Friday one time, and I said, "Oh, it's great when the game starts.
Yeah.
Once the game, minus the only thing I never realized is how many things are dropped under the bleachers during the games.
Oh yeah.
So back when I first took over, we had those gates locked, and we were having to go every time to unlock the gates. And
Yeah.
eventually, I said, "Look, we got to keep those gates unlocked." And
Yeah.
it's just crazy how much stuff's dropped under the bleachers. So at some point in the future, if we do ever build something at the new school, we'll make sure nothing can be dropped
Nothing
underneath.
can be dropped through. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a big help.
Well, Coach, I grew up with bleachers out there where you could drop yourself.
Oh,
through,
yeah.
and
Yeah, I
that
remember
happened-
those, too.
That happened plenty of times with 2 and 3 year olds, and sometimes grown men falling through those things. And we remedied that. But it was a long time before we remedied that on both sides of the field. So I can imagine all the things that have fallen through there. But well, Coach, we got a big game coming up this Friday. Let everybody know. I know we have an online ticketing service now. If people want to buy tickets ahead, maybe you can give us a little bit of information about how to purchase tickets before Friday's
Well,
game.
tickets you can purchase. So you can use the Hometown Fan app. They do have a $1 convenience fee on there, so it will cost you $11. So you can buy those online. They're up and running. I think I told Brad right before. I think there's 14 been bought, or you can still use cash at the gate. They're $10. I think I looked the other day. I think this is the 6th time we've been in the third round since 2000, and the last time we had a third round home game is 2011.
Yeah.
So it's been a while, but yeah, I would say, if online, a lot of people are doing online now, and they like having those tickets like that. But we got great weather for Friday night, so we're looking for a big crowd. We got 2 good teams playing.
Yeah, and big stage. We had a really big stage with the MVP game earlier this year. What were the numbers like? You told me at one point, but I can't remember how many people were in the stadium at that point.
Not sure on
5,000 maybe.
I'm not sure. I know we sold I think 1,500 tickets that night, but
Right.
of course, a lot of people in the regular season get in for free, and that was the best atmosphere I think we've had at home in a long time. Right. I really believe that was a great game, and of course to be the MVP like that was very satisfying for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. And so round 3 at home here, hosting BHP, 2 storied programs with a storied past, banging heads here on Friday, so to speak, in the round 3. Love to have everybody come out. Please come out and support these guys. Buy a ticket, come sit in the stands.
BHP Radio, I didn't know about this guy, but he's actually calling his 575th game Friday night.
That's
He's
crazy.
been doing since the 70s, but I've never heard him. But everybody told me that if you can tune into them, they are hilarious. Their AD told me that there's times where you'll think it was a 40-yard gain on a play, and the guy's like, up, second 8, we picked up 2 yards. But they said those guys are really funny, and that the AD actually, Jody LeCroy, he went over to Palmetto as the head coach, and then of course they played BHP, and he said, you thought that I grew up with those guys, you thought they'd be nice to me, and he said that we were terrible at Palmetto, and I was trying to shorten the game and take the full 25 seconds between each play, and he said they were giving me down the road about it. But yeah, I think it's definitely 2 great programs, 2 great communities coming together on a Friday night.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach, thanks as always for coming in. Good to see you. Good to talk with you as always. And folks, we're going to take a break for just a second, and don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with Woodruff head coach Brett Sloan, and we're going to talk a little bit of Christ Church as well as BHP coming up this Friday. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. All right, everybody. We are back here live at Tap 3, Main Street, Woodruff, South Carolina. As always, thankful to the Tap 3 staff and Ben Harrison for hosting us every Tuesday night during football season. BOGO flatbreads are still going on every Tuesday, and we are always here at 7 o'clock, ready to go around ready to go live around 7:05. So thank you for coming and joining us here online and live here at Tap 3. And I'm here with Woodruff head coach Brett Sloan, as always. Coach, I'm going to say this now, and I'm not going to say it anymore because I don't know why it happens every time I say it. But I told you guys, I told everybody listening that you better show up Friday because it was going to be a heck of a football game, and it actually turned out that way. And every time I've said that this year, that's come to fruition. So
it was a little too good,
a little too close for comfort,
a little too good.
But as we said last week, Christchurch Episcopal School was going to come in, and they were not going to back down. They were going to fight to the end. They are a good football program over there, and it turned out that it kind of came down to the wire for the Wolverines to pull off a victory there in the end. Coach, you know, I was watching that game from the press box. Had one real kind of frustrating series that a lot of factors that we couldn't control. But I want to make one. I want to make one statement real quick, in the fact that they have a receiver, number one. I believe his name's Jude Hall, and that young man is a fantastic football player. Props to him and that football program over there. He's a really good football player.
He's very, very good. I mean, he's playing in Shrine Bowl for a reason. He's committed to go to play from Memphis for a reason, right? And I think he showed his talent and represented himself well the other night. You know, I know he's playing through an injury as well, so. It's one of those things like when you get into the playoffs, you need your dudes to be dudes, right? You need your guys to be guys, and you need your players to be players. And he was a player the other night, and we were fortunate. We had some guys on our side that were also players. And, it was a hard fought game, and we were fortunate enough to come out on the good end of it. We made enough mistakes for a lifetime, probably. But those are things that. I think it shows how good of a team this is. Most teams in the playoffs, you make some of the mistakes that we made, and you don't survive it. And we were able to survive and advance despite a lot of self-inflicted pain, and then some unfortunate adversity that was out of our control at times. But kudos to our kids, and just the will to win that they have is really impressive, and they continue to show that, whether it's, being down big at Emerald and coming back, or if it's taking the loss at Wren and bouncing back and dominant style the next week, and just their resiliency and their they really have the heart of a champion in a lot of ways, in most ways, and to see them do that is a lot of fun, and a little nerve-wracking at times, but, a lot of fun in the end,
I'm pretty sure that I told a couple of the guys when I came down on the field that I wear an Apple Watch, and Morgan Smith, who makes the radio calls, he and I both, our high heart rate alert went off at least twice within 3 hours of Friday, so it was definitely an exciting game. Kept us on our edge for sure.
And I think our staff did a really good job of, keeping the composure of the kids, and keeping them in the game. Because there were moments when they could have lost it, and I don't think there was any panic on our sideline from our staff, and the ability to just weather the storm, and come out victorious was impressive, so.
Well, a couple of highlights from the game Friday. Aiden Gibson, 311 yards, 1 yard short of the record, single-game record. I believe it's held by Sean Tribble. Nonetheless, an incredible performance by Aiden. And as always, that young man is a workhorse, willing to come in and just take over, especially on that last drive when we needed to score. Kind of coming in, knowing what needed to be done. Just a great performance again by Aiden.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, Aiden tends to get better and better as the game goes on. He's one of those backs that the more you give it to him, he gets lathered up and he gets really, really going. And part of that is he's so physical and guys get, tired of tackling him, and he tends to get better and better as everybody else, and stronger as everybody else starts fading a little bit, And I think you saw that some in the second half the other night. He started ripping off big runs, and none more impressive than that last run he made for the winning touchdown, where he kind of froze the guy in the hole, and the guy completely whiffed on him. To be a big back, he's really got exceptional lateral movement skills and things. He really stuns people with his agility at times, I think.
Exactly.
And just a really good football player, and it was a heck of a performance. I mean, just like I said earlier, in the playoffs, your players have to be, your good players have to be, they got to be good players, and he was certainly that the other night. But we had good performances from other guys.
Right.
Corey Moats had a good game. Dre Jenkins was our co-offensive player of the week.
Yep.
Had 2 huge touchdown catches himself, both of which he caught inside of 5 yards and made a bunch of people miss and went and scored. He's electric with the ball in his hands, and we threw for over 200 yards and rushed for over 300 yards. So it was a very balanced game for us. So just a lot of guys did a really good job for us. Jackson McCarley was our defensive player of the week. Had a fantastic game. Senior John Shabir was our special teams player of the week. So he did a great job on it for us on kickoff team, and there's a lot of guys. Sean Graybill played well. Adrian Hill played well. Trayvon Lee played well. I mean, there's just a long list of guys who made huge contributions to a big time win last Friday night.
Yep, it was a instant classic, as they say on ESPN. So just a crazy game. It was the epitome of survive in advance.
It was the epitome of playoff football, right?
Yeah.
And I think the lesson that hopefully we learn from it is, we're still learning what it takes to keep advancing into deeper rounds of the playoffs right now as a team and as a program. And I think the lesson they learned is when in the playoffs, if you got the chance to slam the door on somebody, you better slam it, because
Correct.
Hope's it's like I told them after the game, hope's a very powerful thing, and when you leave guys, or when you give a team hope in a situation like that where it's do or die, the momentum swings in a playoff game just seem so much more dramatic or strong,
Correct.
It's just you can really feel the energy in the stadium when it turns in the playoffs, and so I'm hoping we learned our lesson about that, and hats off to Christ Church, and they did a fantastic job, and their kids played, with unbelievable heart as well, to the very last snap, and
Correct.
It was a phenomenal football game, it really was. So.
Well, Coach, with that win, we are moving on to round 3. I don't want to keep harping on it, but it's been a long time since we hosted a round 3 game here at Woodruff, 2011, as a matter of fact. And, that's a special, important thing to these Wolverine fans, this community, this team. The excitement is definitely in the air here in Woodruff, South Carolina, for hosting a round 3 game against Coach, one of the best teams in 3A football. There's no really other way to put it. BHP is a fantastic football team. I believe they're officially ranked number 3 in the state coming in on Friday. And they're a storied football program just like we are. They have a history. I believe we are 11-7 against BHP all time. And I'm sure Garrett Mitchell will correct me if I was wrong on that. I'm sure I'll get a message here in any moment. But what's interesting to me, and Coach, I'll throw this in for people who remember this. We're officially 0-5 in the last 5 meetings against BHP. But the loss in 1985 came from a forfeit. Coach Varner self-reported an illegal player. We had to forfeit I believe it was a 55-6 victory over BHP in 1985. So on paper, we are 0-5 in the last 5 meetings against BHP. but we've been playing them for a long time. They know us. They know our community. We know their community. And Coach, it's going to be a slobber knocker coming in here on Friday. I don't expect anything less. You were talking about when you came in watching film. I know you got a little downtime with family being out of town right now, and I don't know if I've watched as much game footage as I have personally in the past week or two, but there's a couple things that I noticed, and then I'll let you take it from there. But their quarterback is a fantastic player, and he kind of makes the whole machine work. A couple things I've noticed is it seems like they're going to open the game with a little jet sweep touch pass, like every single game. It seems to be that way. And the quarterback is going to run the ball. It's called runs every game, every series. So, Coach, those are my kind of observations of BHP coming in. From a defensive standpoint for the Wolverines, what is it going to take for the Wolverines to get some stops against BHP this Friday?
Well, I mean, I know it sounds like a broken record and things, but we've got to be more physical, and that's a very tough task, because if you turn the film on, it's not hard to see that they take great pride in being extremely, extremely physical.
Correct.
They're an extremely physical football team, and man, do I respect the way they play the game, because they absolutely get after it.
For sure.
So we have to match that. We got to be really disciplined. They present a lot of problems because they're in a lot of 12 personnel stuff. You get a lot of tight end wing type stuff. You often get almost some Clinton S type formations from them a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a hint of like Buck T and single wing type stuff in there, where,
For sure,
especially with the mobile quarterback that you see. So it's kind of, I guess, modernized versions of some of those old school offenses in a way.
Right.
And you've got to be able to fit all your gaps, and you got to be, gap sound. And I would agree with you. The quarterback for them is, to me, he's what makes the whole thing go, because he balances them not only with the pass game, but he also balances them with a second runner in the backfield. So a lot of times you get you get cross flow with the back, and you get some misdirection, and you might get a quarterback design run play going the other way, and so you get some of that stuff, and then sometimes they just run what some people would call super buck, where the running back's leading for, you got two pulling guards, you got the tight end and tackle, or sometimes tight end, wing, and tackle blocking down, and they're pulling two guards, and then they're leading with the tailback, and he becomes the ball carrier. It's tough to defend, because they end up, in a more traditional offense, you're always one hat short as far as in the run game goes.
Right.
Theoretically, you're one hat short in the run game to the defense because of your quarterback.
Right.
But with what they do, a lot of times, you even that hat count up, and things become more and more difficult to. And the goal of defense is always to have a +1 hat count all the time. That's kind of the goal of good defense. And that they make it really, really difficult to do that, because just because of the mobility of the quarterback. And then you turn on the tape and you keep watching, and he makes some big time throws too.
Yeah.
So he's a problem, and he presents a whole lot of challenges. And we're gonna have to play well, and we're gonna have to make sure that we play super, super disciplined, because if you go chasing all the other guys. And I know I've said this before, but if you chase Ghost, then all of a sudden he pops a big one on him, and he really makes them go. So
yeah, and they're not small up front either on both sides of the ball. There's some big youngins over there.
They're big and they're physical.
Yeah.
They're a typical BHP team. They're very big and they're very strong and they're very physical.
Yeah.
So they take great pride in that, and rightfully so. And we'll have to match that physicality if we want to be successful. So
yeah, and Coach Blackston's kind of known for really good offensive and defensive lines. He does a great job coaching those guys up how to play on both sides of the ball.
A very good O-line coach. Very, very good O-line coach.
Yes, sir. So from an offensive standpoint, Coach, I think I know what your answer is going to be to this, but from an offensive standpoint, What do the Wolverines have to do to put points on the board against this BHP team come Friday?
You know, I think we got to be balanced. You know, and we're going to have to throw the ball well. They're really good in the defensive box. I really think they're very good there. And they're particularly good against the run. You know, and you kind of you don't want to let them play their game a little bit. You know what I mean? We got to try to force them to play our game a little bit. You know, and try to dictate things by making them cover the entire width of the field and the length of the field, and you know, really make them hopefully spread them out. You know, and you know, and then allow Aiden to go to work when we can get them loosened up a little bit. So I think just the ability to be balanced, make throws sideline to sideline, make vertical throws, hurt them with a quick game. You know, all that balanced with the run. You know, giving Aiden his opportunities. I think that's the key to, you know, kind of keeping them, I guess, guessing a little bit, you know, or at least keep them being a little less aggressive, you know, make them think a little bit. You know, motions and formations help, shifts and things like that. At least slows them up a little bit, you know. The goal sometimes is just to, you know, take the pen out of the coordinator's hand. If that, you know, make those high school kids have to make checks and calls and, you know, and things like that, and think a little bit, because if they know where the ball's going, these guys fly around now, you know. So you got to try to slow them down, in a multitude of ways. So.
Well, that's what I was going to mention, Coach. Is something that I read about playoff football a couple of weeks ago was at this point in the season, if you're still alive in the playoffs, it's incredibly important to know your tendencies, so that number one, that you know what your tendencies are, and number two, that if your opponent knows your tendency, then you can do something different, or you can make a different call, or whatever it might be, to surprise them a little bit.
It's that whole art of war thing, right? Know your enemy and know yourself. You
Correct.
know, and you can't. You have to know both. You know, because you know, if you don't know sometimes as a coach you take tendencies and you know,
a negative maybe.
Well, what you do is you won't have certain tendencies sometimes because you're stacking things for a reason, right? Because you want them to expect 100% this is going to happen, you know. And then sometimes you don't realize when you get in trouble is when you don't realize what tendencies you have. Correct. Because then, you know, you don't know how to manipulate those things in the biggest moments, in the moments that you want to use them. There's times when you want them to know that there's a tendency so that you can set something else up.
Exactly.
And then there's other times when you don't want them to know there's a tendency, or you don't want to have a tendency. All good football teams have tendencies of some type. You know, it's just, you know, you have to be aware of what they are so that you're able to use them in critical moments. So
Well, one statement I was going to quote you on, going all the way back to Emerald. Several of us had asked you this question: what in the world did you change? What did we do at halftime at Emerald? You know, what did you say to the team at Wren? All these things, and your response every time is, we're going to be who we are. We're going to do what we do. We're not going to panic. You already mentioned the coaching staff, kind of making sure that our guys stayed the course this past Friday, and I would not expect anything less this Friday for us to be who we are, do what we do to the best of our ability.
Sure. I mean, I think I've done this long enough now that most of the time it's not whatever the philosophy or the plan is. It's right. It's the execution of the plan that is failing you. You know, and you know, we talk about it all the time. Our plan to win is to be more physical, don't turn the ball over, be great on special teams, and no pre or post snap penalties. You know, and you do those four things, and you're going to win most of your games. You're going to win it's like 80 to 90% of your games, right? So, it usually comes down to you're not executing one or more facets of that plan. You know, it doesn't really come down to everybody thinks you make all these huge adjustments, and you do make minor adjustments at halftime a lot of times, you know, but there's not a wholesale change in system, or we're going to start doing this, or you know, it's probably, you know, this is what they're doing to stop this, or sometimes, and probably more often than not, it's this is what we are failing to do to make this work,
Right.
and and once you get those things on track, you tend to start picking up the pace a little bit, and that's kind of, at least that's what I get from my experience, So
Got you. Well, Coach, I know that like I said, there's an excitement behind this game, and this is.
I think there's going to be a few people there, don't you?
Yes, sir. I would imagine so. And this is another top 5, top 10 matchup, and we've already been through some of those already this year. It's not going to be a new environment to our guys, but there's a lot on the line. Venture to say each week in the playoffs is the biggest game you've played each year,
Sure.
each week or this year. So once again, we'll say this is probably one of the biggest game that we're going to play this year, regardless of the opponents. The third round, if you win, you move on, and a lot at stake. So I know that W.L. Varner Stadium is going to be loud and proud come Friday night at probably 6 o'clock, if I was guessing. It's probably going to be a good environment again for a good matchup in the round 3 of the South Carolina High School League playoffs. Coach, anything you want to add to the conversation before we wrap up
I
here
think
tonight?
it should be I think it should be an unbelievable atmosphere. I think it should be an unbelievable game. I think there's big time players on both sides of the football for both teams, and it's going to be one of those things where they're going to make some plays, and then we're going to make some plays, and there's going to be momentum shifts, and we got to ride that wave, and we can't panic, and we got to be patient, and just it's going to come down to the fourth quarter.
Right.
It's going to be a great football game. I got a lot of respect for their football program and their team, and we're looking forward to representing the Woodruff community again this Friday night. So,
yeah, man. Well, is it Friday yet? Is the question. Is it Friday? You're probably not ready for Friday.
I'm not
but
ready for
everybody
Friday
else
yet. Everybody else is, but I need
Need a couple more
we
days.
still got to prepare.
Yes, sir.
We still have things to prepare for. So,
Well, Coach, thanks for coming in as always and talking football with us. And we look for a huge crowd here at Woodruff this Friday night against BHP, third round of the playoffs, 7:30 start time. You can buy your tickets on the Hometown Fan app if you want to purchase tickets ahead of time. But we need you there. We need you there in the stands cheering on our guys. Huge game, huge implications to move on to the semifinals for the first time in quite a long time. So we're going to expect W.L. Varner Stadium to be loud and proud. And, Coach, I know you guys are going to be pumped to get in there and show what you guys have been working on all week.
We're excited. So, go Wolves.
Yes, sir. Well, we're going to wrap up everything here tonight. Once again, from live from Tap 3, this is the Woodruff Wolverine Coaches Show. And we are going to plan on seeing you guys same time next week. So you guys come out, be loud and proud, go Wolverines, and we will see you next time on the Woodruff Wolverine Coaches Show.